Hello and welcome to Four Color Nerds Comic Podcast, episode 30. I'm Rory and I'm joined by some other nerds, Ryan.
Hello.
Carissa.
Hey, yeah.
And Christina couldn't be here this week. Together we take on this week's comics. Each week we read a variety of comics and gather here to discuss them. This is a review show, so there will be spoilers. If you don't want to hear spoilers, take a break now and go and read your week's books, then come back. Each week one of us picks their favorite book of the week, and that's our pick of the week. This week, I'm that nerd. The pick of the week...
Doctor Strange number 7!
Hold on! This week the pick of the week goes to Doctor Strange number 7. Our companion song for Doctor Strange number 7 is Screamin' Jay Hawkins, I Put a Spell on You.
Why'd you pick that song?
Well, because this week we've got all this magic in the comic list, so it just seemed fitting.
I put a spell on you. Cause you're mine. Stop the things you do. Watch out!
All right. So you had Doctor Strange.
Okay, so this week I had Doctor 7 number Strange.
What? Doctor 7 number Strange?
What is wrong with me? This week we have Doctor Strange number 7, Marvel Comics, written by Jason Aaron, pencils and colors by Chris Bacalo, inks by Tim Townsend, Al Vey, Mark Irwin, John Livesey, Victor Olazaba, and Jaime Mendoza, and everybody else on Earth.
So this one is actually part 2 of Last Days of Magic, which we'll get to the first part after this, but this one was picked.
The basic scheme of this is that Doctor Strange keeps finding dead Sorcerers Supreme, killed off by this group Empirikul, basically a force of science fascists. They start off with an origin scene of Lord Imperator, where his parents are killed by sorcerers for practicing heretical science. Imperator barely escapes with his life. Flash forward to where he's revealing all this stuff to Doctor Strange, and that they were all basically the people from his home planet were worshipping this demon Shumagorath, which is like a giant evil eyeballed critter.
Basically Cthulhu, for all intents and purposes, yeah. It's Marvel's Cthulhu.
Yeah, but it's a big fucking giant eyeball with tentacles. Just not bat wings. Lord Imperator reveals that he not only has science, but super science, because, or as I like to call it, super motherfucking science.
Science up in this bitch.
Science?
Alright, science! But he's been using super science to chase down the other...
Sorcerer Supremes?
They're not Sorcerer Supremes. In other worlds they are. Yeah, he's been hunting them.
Been hunting down Sorcerer Supremes, which are just sorcerers with, sour cream and tomatoes on them.
There are lots of sorcerers in each world. There's only one Sorcerer Supreme in each world.
Oh, I thought that they all were, as I was reading through.
Doctor Strange is the Sorcerer Supreme for the 616.
Gotcha, and the rest are just like the bean burritos?
Yeah, exactly. There's no guacamole, no sour cream. Still pretty tasty.
I don't know, the Mexico guy was pretty certain that he said, fine over there in New York, but here, I'm the shit. Oh, sorry, that's the next issue. But...
Oh my god, that was so awesome. But yeah, we gotta hold on that one.
Too much good stuff.
Oh, too good.
Yeah, except for those damn flying sharks.
That's also Last Days of Magic.
I know, I'm trying to move on, but I had to comment.
So anyways, Imperator tells him that he's basically trying to get rid of the cancer of magic from the universe. All of a sudden, poof, out of nowhere, Monaco appears, talks some shit to Imperator. Imperator tells him that there's no magic left around, and then Monaco says that magic hides itself when it senses, danger, essentially, and tells Doctor Strange that he's going to need to find every bit of it that's hiding in the world in order to, use it as a weapon against them. And then he casts a teleportation spell. Takes away Doctor Strange and all of his friends. Monaco gets executed by Imperator, and Strange and friends have a conversation about how they need to find all the magic left in the world. And that's kind of where they leave off. This book I really enjoyed. The reason why I picked it is because just, number one, phenomenal artwork. I loved the contrast between the black and the white Empirikuls. It's just all black and white wherever they've been or wherever the magic has been drained out. And then whenever there's magic being used, they kind of contrast that by using actual color on the characters and magical items. And anytime they cast a spell, it's just really kind of like a feast for the eyes.
Yeah, the coloring helps tell that story.
The story was awesome.
Well, something we've commented on before.
And much like the way we're doing the podcast, I read these in reverse. So
Me too. I'm not the only one.
So it was actually because I was just going down our list. And so this was actually a really good place to jump into the series, even though it's already taken off. It was a really good place to jump in. It didn't feel like I was missing anything, just especially with the origin story of Lord Imperator. I really loved this. What did you guys think?
Oh, I loved it.
Oh my god, you need to go back and read the others.
They're all as good as this.
Yeah, the 1 through 6 that you haven't read.
Yeah, I think Doctor Strange number 6 is the only unanimous 5-star book we've had. We loved it.
I almost get in a contrast with it because the movies being had, I feel like, oh, you're just jumping on the new bandwagon for the new superhero movie. But this series really sparked like a fire going, oh my god, Doctor Strange. Like, it gets you super excited for it because this particular arc and series has been amazing. Yeah. It's just really good timing on their part.
Jason Aaron can do no wrong. The dude is, if not the best in the business right now, definitely in like the top 3. Probably like him and like Brian K. Vaughan, I would say. You know, you've got a movie coming out, so you put your best writer, and then Chris Bacalo is an amazing artist, and you put him on there, and you're going to get a damn fine book here. And it's really good. I really like Monaco in this. Yeah. I love the curmudgeon-y. I love it where he's like, you know, this stick killed 97 Nazis. It can kick your ass too. You know, and then just starts wailing on them.
Yeah, that was great.
And then I like his, when they're like, any last words? He's like, yeah, 2 of them. Fuck and you. I was like, yeah. Mm-hmm. This whole thing with Monaco in the last couple issues where everyone's telling him to run. Like, there's even a line in here where it's like, run, you fool, which reminded me a lot of, like, Lord of the Rings when they're fighting the Balrog. No, I don't run. I'm an old man. I fought Nazis. I've done all this. I'm going to die on my feet fighting, which he's pretty awesome. I really like him.
It hits all the levels of sacrifice, like all like the main pivotal good storytelling. This one, with the flashback was kind of interesting, which I can see Rory's point where it definitely helped him get back into the story, having not read the other one, seeing where the science people are coming from, because that was kind of like a mystery before. Like, we knew that they were against magic, but we didn't know really the reason.
Right.
But I just love, like, you have the self-sacrifice, and you have the revelations of what they can do. I like how you do see that all the people are not dead, and they're, like, underground and trapped, and they're even surprised. I mean, here you have the Sorcerer Supreme, and he's surprised that someone had enough magic to pull a teleportation, and none of the spells that they know are working and can work, so they have to old-fashioned their way out of there, and I'm sure that's really new for all of them. That's going to be some interesting takes.
Marvel is really good at telling underdog stories. It's hard to think about that when they all have superpowers and stuff. X-Men is an underdog story. This is back against the wall, do or die, into the world type stuff, and they're very good at that. And I really enjoy that sense of kind of like of desperation and this struggle that they're like the fact that the librarian is going to go into the cellar that keeps all the food that they've been told never to go into.
Yeah.
I mean, we learned about that in, what was it, the Art of Puking Without Puking, I think was the...
That's the first issue 1.
It's all tying together.
The look, how the realization of her looking towards the cellar door as like she's trying to think of options, what can she do? And just the progression of the panels that then focus on it. I was just like, oh, damn, she's going to go in there.
Well, I like it because she walks past it first, like, nope, not going in there, and then it's like, oh, I guess desperate times, call for desperate measures.
You did say pick any door.
It's true. I really think that the coloring, and we've mentioned this before on this a lot, I mean, the coloring on this book is spectacular. It really lends to the storytelling. Absolutely. Like, it contributes, it tells you a visual story without having to use a lot of words to express, magic in there, so... Chris Bacalo is a in addition to being a really great penciler, is a great colorist, too.
In the Art of Puking Without Puking, just like it was all black and white, and then that was green. Like, it's been like a theme throughout this whole story, and you just can't imagine it without it. Like, it has been pivotal to the storytelling as well as just the words on there. Like, it really carries a lot of weight.
And that Imperator looks really awesome. It's a really good design for him.
Yes.
Why was he chewing the cloak? I don't know.
Well, the cloak is like a living thing. So when I think it was like at the end of issue 6 where he like ripped it in half. Like why he's eating it, I have no idea. And Shuma-Gorath looked pretty cool too. In that panel where they show first you see like the size of the spaceship that he's in, and it's pretty big. And then he goes like flying past Shuma-Gorath, and he's really tiny. And you can see like on all his tentacles and stuff, there's like cities like built into that. Yeah. So That was a nice little perspective there that they gave you. So I enjoyed it. What did you end up giving it, Rory?
I'm going to give it 4 giant eyeball demons because, I mean, this, like I said, I can't really ask for much more than this. I mean, I almost want to go 5. I'm just going to go with 4 for now, but it's absolutely stellar. Everybody should pick this up and read it. It's fucking phenomenal. What'd you give it, Carissa?
I gave it 4.5 sticks. Nazi killing sticks.
I gave it 4.5 sellers.
Oh, nice.
So, like we said, that was part 2, actually, of the story. But part 1 is Doctor Strange Last Days of Magic #1. And this is by Marvel Comics, obviously. Written by a whole bunch of people. So, because it's a bunch of short stories together, basically. So it's written by Jason Aaron, Jerry Duggan, James Robinson. The art is by Leonardo Romero, Danilo Bayruth, Mike Perkins. Colors are by Jordi Belair, Dan Brown, and Andy Troy. So this one, it's interesting. Usually when you have that many creators on a book, I think it tends to be a mess. But this one I felt like was really cohesive. Like, I really felt they all fit in tone with each other. They all told stories that were thematically similar. There were every story was like my favorite. Like, each one I read, I was like, oh, can't get any better than this. And then, you flip to the next one. You had a really cool one with El Medico Mystico, who's like the sorcerer for Mexico.
Yes.
There's a lot of things I liked about that one. I like that it's in Spanish and they don't translate it, which I appreciate that, but I really did like that they weren't translating what he was saying. Because I think this is supposed to be a story about Mexico. Because, I mean, that's what he says, like, I am Mexico. So I appreciate that they didn't bother to translate it into English. I think it lent to that this is his story. There's a magical Sharknado that he summons, which was pretty awesome. I know how much you love sharks, Carissa. So
it was not awesome. It was a little too well drawn. But I did like at one point on one panel when they moved on past that, you see the silhouettes of them still falling in the background.
It's raining sharks.
That was a nice touch.
It's sharktacular. Then he, summons all the Olmec and Aztecs giant stone statues, like basically the pyramids, like rip themselves out of the ground and almost like transform into these like golems that he's using to fight them. It's pretty awesome. Then you have Dr. Voodoo story, who I've seen a lot of Dr. Voodoo stories.
I have a quick question, though.
Yeah.
One thing that I couldn't figure out is that even though El Medico Mystico is speaking in all Spanish, I couldn't figure out why the alien fucking robots weren't speaking English.
I don't know. Didn't have their translator chip?
Yeah, did you catch that? I'm like, oh, okay, so all aliens speak English? Is that how it fucking works? Why aren't they speaking Spanish?
They probably have British accents.
So probably. Okay, I just had to bring that up real quick.
Man, I'm looking at that panel of the sharks raining down, and I love how you can see, basically the mouth of the shark, all the way into the shark. It's heading down to, bite these people. Oh, it's great.
But there's one where they're just kind of, in the sleet. It's, way in the background. Yes. You still see silhouettes.
Yeah, when he's got that stone golem thing, you can see the shark still coming down, so...
Yeah, it turns into pyramid golem.
The next one is Dr. Voodoo, who, I've read a lot of Dr. Voodoo stories, but I never really understood him that well. I think this story really explains who he is. Feels very New Orleans voodoo. You've got him hanging out with his ghost friends. I like that his laboratory is basically a crypt. So he has all kinds of weird, creepy stuff in that he uses to fight them off. He's got this hand that strangles people, and he has... I thought it was a vial of mystical blood, but it's not. You find out what it is at the end of that story that allows him to survive, which I thought was kind of cool. I really enjoyed that story. I thought it was creepy and atmospheric, and I like in these last stands of all these guys that you get to see them being total badasses, fighting for their life, but it's in all the stories it's not enough though. The Empirikul are still too strong for them. So I enjoy that sense of struggle, and you get to see them shining, and you get to really understand their characters and the way that they fight against it. The one story that I wasn't super crazy about was the story of the temple where Dr. Doom learned his mystical arts.
What?
Oh, you did like that one?
Yeah, I like that one.
I thought it was kind of...
I just don't like Dr. Doom that much.
Well, it's not Dr. Doom. It's Mahatma Doom, right? He's the monk who's the counterpart. Because, he sees Dr. Doom come in and slaughter his whole temple and become super evil. So he has to, balance that out, karmically. So he's all meditating and peaceful. And basically, he's, I think the only one who kind of, wins because he gets the robots to embrace transcendental meditation.
I thought that was totally awesome.
Kind of conquers them that way. So it was my least favorite one. Then there was the one about the Wu, which is basically the defender of Hong Kong, basically. It felt very pulp, Very like 1930s pulp was the feel that I got from it. There was a scene that I thought was really cool where the original Wu, who has a really long name that I can't remember.
The August Wu of the Coral Shores.
So she has a daughter that Stephen Strange is basically getting his ass kicked in his like early days. So she saves him and takes him back to her apartment to like rest and recuperate. And he meets her daughter, who's like this teenager, basically too busy texting and sulking to do anything. And she has this kind of like dark hair, unlike her mother, who has red hair. And then there's this scene where her mother basically fights and dies, and the girl wakes up in the middle of the night and her hair is red, and she's all super excited about it, that her hair, now she looks like her mom. And she goes in to tell her dad about it, and her dad is just sitting there crying because he knows what's happened. And I thought that was really effective. I thought there was a really good face acting in those panels, basically. I enjoyed that part.
I don't know if I read that as excited. I read it as more like she was shocked and didn't know, and was like, hey, Dad, well, this happened, more like kind of curious. I don't know if I read it as really as like she was excited to like, sweet, my hair got changed, but it was more like, oh, this happened, this is odd, let me go ask Dad.
So then she's basically like a two-gun sorcerer, like instead of using spells, she has them in her guns when she's shooting people. So that was kind of interesting. And then one that I thought was really more, I laughed when I read this one, was about Count Chaos, who I guess apparently ate a magical bear in Siberia that gave him powers, and he's just brawling with these guys. I found that very amusing.
The manliest sorcerer of the world.
I like that one a lot, that story.
Much magical testosterone.
He speaks in that crappy, like, stereotypical Russian accent.
Like, I felt like it was almost like listening to, like, if, like, Zangief was from, like, Street Fighter, had magical powers,
I kill all you robots. Drink your whiskey. Take your women. Ha ha.
Exactly. And then it loops back to the end of Doctor Strange number 6, where the Imperator is like ripping the Doctor Strange's cloak in half, and that's where we see all the people that they've been rounding up, basically tied pyres to burn them for their heresy, which is actually where Doctor Strange number 7, the first one we reviewed, picks up. But they're both completely independent of each other. Like, you don't have to have read one to have read the other. They stand on their own. They work better when you read them. I mean, you guys read them out of order, and you still got the story. So I think it's really strong for a tie-in miniseries. I ended up giving it 4 Siberian bears.
I give it 4 Pimbot, because he mentions Hank Pym at the end when he drinks the vial.
I'm going to give it 4 raining sharks.
No! Sex Criminals, number 15. Image Comics, written by Matt Fraction, and art by Chip Zdarsky. Yes, so I can never pass up a chance to read Sex Criminals. I love it. This issue, not as super is exciting, but it did reveal a lot and have a lot of great interpersonal moments, I think. It kind of give you a lot of insight to a lot of the characters going around. I did love that on the 5 page, they kind of continued the meta fourth wall breaking thing, where Matt's talking to Chip and it's just like Chip zoning out and then like, oh yeah. But I just love that. Yeah. They had a little more of that from like the issue before.
Chip is really good at that meta fourth wall breaking stuff.
So the doc is telling John about how Kegel woman was stealing information about his clients and was basically confronting John, asking, do you know this person? And of course he recognized the name. He's just like, I gotta go, and he just leaves. He realizes the implication. But the doctor wanted to know, well, do you know them? Who are they? To you, and all this other stuff, and trying to fit the pieces together, but John just leaves. And then you basically see
Suze, my secret comic girlfriend. Don't tell Jessica Drew.
He tells her that he loves her, and they're cuddling, and it's super cute, and I love it. So anyway, but her and the other doctor, chick lady, they make up, I guess, apparently. They talk it out after the whole showdown, which I was kind of hoping that showdown would go on some more, because I kind of loved it. They're talking it out, but basically, Suze is finally admitting that she doesn't want to rob banks anymore. It's not for her. She feels like she needs to tell John and all that. And there's also more fourth wall breaking. I love that one part of the panel. He's like, even though that's the whole point of this book, this is what it's called, Sex Criminals, if you don't want to be a criminal anymore. Yeah.
I also like where they do this kind of a lot, where they do like the black panels where they just describe what they should be drawing.
But yeah, basically, so they get home and then the other doctor, John's doctor, barges in, the psychiatrist barges in, and then that's where those black panels happen, is basically saying, imagine this is where they do all the introductions and catch each other up. So, yeah, so there's that. I love that, too. Because, yeah, it passes time, things that would happen, but you don't really want to waste pages on, so they just kind of gloss over it. Though at that point is when he sees that cute those little mini libraries, and he sees one, and I like that it says like, "No porn, Steve." Like she has a little note
For the guy who puts the porn in the newspapers or whatever
in the newsletters and in the neighborhood newsletters. I thought that was cute. So Susie's getting her libraries back in a way. The doc shows up and it's really funny because he recognizes the porn star. He's like, "Oh, I like your work."
mentioning the papers that she wrote, and then he's like, "I also admire your work."
Yeah.
Was it Jasmine St. Cocaine?
Yeah.
I think is her porn star name.
Yeah. This whole time, they're doing flashbacks to Kegel Lady going through her daily life and showing basically how she went into the quiet and stole John's information, like fully, because, she was caught, trying to do it the old-fashioned way.
Or cum world, as John calls it.
Yes, but I'm using Susie's way. The classy way, the lady way. But yeah, but Kegel Lady does her thing. Basically, you get the feeling that she was into the doctor. She was enjoying that sex, and she can't get him out of her mind, it seems. Like, she's having some questioning thoughts about what she's doing. Because it shows her, like, with that family at home, and then just going, fuck. Because she keeps picturing him down on her. So that was interesting. But she did turn over the information that she got. You do see that, and then the issue ends with the other two, the anime guy and...
He's the one with the weird anime girl made out of...
Yeah, that's the one I remember. It's the other one, the other partner. I don't remember much about him. They also show up at their apartment, and they're like, "Who is this?" And they open the door, and they punch John. And then it's like a standoff. Like, because they're there, because apparently, they're mad. But it's like, oh, great, now all their personal information's out, and it's like, is this not going to stop? Because they keep doing that. They keep going after one another now on a personal level, and it's this whole thing's happening now. Yeah, that was the issue. I thought it was a really interesting insights. It's definitely wasn't like any big plot revelations per se happening in this one, but always still really entertaining because, well, it's Matt Fraction and Chip. So, what do you guys think?
I agree with you that plot-wise, I think like a significant thing happened that they're not criminals anymore, but this was much more about character. There's that panel right at the very beginning where they're kind of lying in bed and kind of without thinking, John tells Susie that he loves her. And there's that panel of her eyes when she hears that, where they both just kind of like don't know how to deal with that. And they're like, "Coffee, let's get coffee," and like leap out of bed to go do that. I thought that...
I love that though.
Well, I mean, you've talked before how you feel like this book is how people realistically interact with each other. So I felt that scene has a lot of truth in it. I really like the facial expression on her. And she's super adorable. She's like one of my favorite people in comics, so...
I know you do. For something I forgot to mention, so the part where she does tell him finally that she doesn't want to be a bank robber or criminal, and he basically thinks she's breaking up with him, that's actually a big part of this issue. I totally skimmed over it, but it actually happens to be my favorite. And because she just words it horribly, like most people do. She words it in a way where it's not you, it's me. It totally sounds like she's breaking up with him, but she's not, because they love each other. And basically they clear it up, but it's a reoccurring thing in this series where it's like, that man.
That guy. That girl.
That guy, that girl, and it's like that sums up their love, like that guy, it's like, I love it, and I love that they reuse that, and it just shows, that's kind of like their everything's okay line.
And I really like, I didn't think I'd ever feel sympathy for, I didn't know the character has an actual name, but for Kegel Face. There's like that scene where she's kind of sitting in the bathroom like by herself, and she looks so sad. I actually felt sorry for her for like a panel, and then I remembered that she's a total bitch.
I thought that exact same thing. Like, oh hell no, you're not making me feel sorry for her.
And then I felt there were lots of little like quiet moments like that the book excels at. I liked it. I mean, I like Sex Criminals. I think Matt Fraction and Chip Zdarsky are pretty much a perfect creative team. They're in such sync with each other. Chip does the art. I mean, he also writes, like he writes Howard the Duck. I mean, he's multi-talented. Here, I think that they're in total alignment with each other.
They have a bromance going on, seriously.
So, Rory, this is your first visit to the world of Sex Criminals.
Oh, what did I think?
You're probably very confused because it doesn't explain what the quiet is.
Hate it.
You're like the wacky morning DJ of the podcast.
Totally.
I didn't even hear what it said, still.
It's the Hated It from In Living Color.
Hated it.
Men on Film.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow, you need to read the rest of them, I think. This is not a good one to get in.
He jumped in his DeLorean, went 88 miles an hour, back in time to get that joke and bring it forward.
Back to 1990.
They stop time by orgasming. It's amazing.
I don't know if you remember, from around that same time, there was a TV show called Out of This World where this girl could stop time by touching her fingers together. This is is the same idea, but it's not fingers that they touch together to stop time.
I'm sorry. Of course, I haven't read the entire series, but I mean, there's going to be people that are going to be picking this up, right? Partway through the series. I do dig the artwork. It's pretty nice. It's definitely a nice, smooth artwork. It's simple, yet it does a lot. The storyline, I'm sorry, but it was like dragging nails across chalk for me. It was like watching an episode of Friends, which I hate Friends. Of course, I'm just jumping into this right off the bat. There was nothing that was interesting to me, because I don't know the backstory of the characters, but we've talked about it before in previous podcasts. A good comic book should be something that you could jump in on the middle of, because who wants to go back, 300 issues to figure out what the fuck's going on?
I can see that as a valid criticism, because it's very character heavy.
But I think a lot of Image comics, you do kind of have to read them. They're not so much... I mean, I understand the nature of comics are serial, but I feel like a lot of the Image comics are not. They are definitely telling a broader story, They're chapters more than...
Because I think most Image comics are not intended to run forever. They have like a story they're going to tell. So it's 6 issues, 30 issues, I mean, whatever. They have a set. It's just like a freight train going down. Like they don't need it to continue forever.
They don't revisit and explain a lot each issue.
To put it in perspective for somebody who is interested in this series, I would say don't just go jumping in the middle. This is not the one to do it in. It was definitely confusing, and for me, I could see how it could be. I don't know, I got to start from the beginning, so that'd be my point of advice, is just if you're new to this, well then start off with number 1, because otherwise you won't know what the fuck's going on.
Luckily, there's trade.
Here's what you can do to tell if you're going to like sex criminals without having to understand the plot. Did you read the letters column?
The letters column, what the fuck?
The things in the back.
So at the end of the book, there's letters that people write in. It's called Letter Daddies.
Nobody reads the articles, come on.
Oh, no. That's like the best part of the book.
They have an entire book they put out of just the letters called Just the Tips.
Oh my god. This was a cum sock. That's the first thing that I turned to as I flipped this thing open. This was a cum sock. Oh my god.
Yeah. So read the letter column, and if you like that, and if you think that's worth your time, go back and read the series, because that nails the tone of the series without being plot
The letter
dependent.
column in this series, seriously, is one of the best parts of the book. Like, I was going to mention the part where he talks about making a Just a Tip 3D version, like a pop-up book version, is like the best thing. I'm like, this needs to happen. But then he says he doesn't want to do it for issue 2. He would want to do it for the third one, because 3D. Like, this needs to happen. I want a pop-up book.
Did you see the thing about the coloring book?
Yes.
Oh my
I just
god.
love
Okay.
Chip. He's awesome.
I'll have to adjust my my rating eventually, because after reading this, it definitely improves my opinion.
It's worth going and
Exactly.
checking out. I can understand how you'd have a hard time jumping in the middle, but it's worth the...
And even I said this was a slow issue for the series.
So what did you end up giving it, Carissa?
I gave it... I'm going to give it a 4, probably 4 Kegel faces, because of the fact, the same that you had, where I'm like, no, do not make me feel sympathy for her, because I don't like her. But there was, and I mean, that just says there's good storytelling, so 4 Kegel faces.
I will give it 3.5. It's not you, it's me.
I was gonna slam it to a 2, given that I like the art, but the story didn't really catch me. But you know what? I'm gonna boost it up. I'm gonna give it 3.5 cum socks.
The letter column wins him over.
That's all you had to mention. You got to my heart when you started talking about cum socks.
Someone get that guy a copy of Just the Tip.
I like the silent issue with where it's Fat Bottom Girls, that the entire issue is just her dancing on the pool table to the song, but they couldn't get the rights to the lyrics for it, so
they explain it.
It's pretty awesome. That's my favorite issue by far.
They imply that that's what she's singing and dancing to, but they talk, it's all like boxes over the
lyrics,
bubbles explaining how they couldn't get the right. It's very clever.
Yes. They do the meta stuff really well in the book. You had an anniversary one from Dark Horse for us, Rory.
Aliens Defiance #1, Dark Horse Comics, written by Brian Wood, art by Tristan Jones, colors by Dan Jackson. Now, in this one, we start off with Private First Class Zula Hendricks. She's a colonial marine riding in a drop ship with a bunch of freaking synthetics that are owned by Weyland-Yutani. They're basically flying to this ship that's just floating around. It's got like atmosphere spewing out of the side when they come up. She's there basically to provide a key code to transfer the flight recorder data. Once once they're inside, she's talking with a synthetic, and it's showing quite a lot of interest in like the ship recordings. You know, what happened on the ship that killed off the crew that was in there. Suddenly, they realize that the screams that they're hearing on the audio aren't from the recordings, but that's their own unit. So they run out, and the other synthetics are in this gunfight with these xenomorphs. The xenomorphs are just kicking their asses. The synthetic that she was with earlier tells her to basically run and get to the drop ship, but she trips and cracks the dome on her space suit. She passes out, wakens up 27 days later, where she's met by that same synthetic she was with earlier, whose designation Davis, and he explains to her that the things that they found were called xenomorphs. They're basically like these superior life forms, highly intelligent, extremely dangerous, extremely adaptive, and Weyland-Yutani, the evil corporation of the universe, planned on bringing them to Earth and weaponizing them. So Davis at that point decides to ignore orders for the good of humanity, and pretty much everybody, including the synthetics, disobeys orders and decides to backtrack to where the ship came from, which is LV-4440, which should sound familiar to anybody who's familiar with the movies, and snatch up the files regarding the xenomorphs before Weyland-Yutani can, because obviously Weyland-Yutani can pretty much eliminate the evidence that they did anything bad if they get those and hide those. This one, it's funny because there's some, I'm always talking about the artwork in comic books, because there's some art that's like really clean, and there's some art that's like kind of dirty, and sometimes it looks good and sometimes it looks bad. It's funny because it kind of like brings me back to like the 80s Dark Horse Comics feel, you know. It's like the artwork is sloppy but intentionally so, and that kind of brings that grittiness to the comic book. I really liked it. It really had like the feel to the movie. The cinematics of the movie really brought out in this comic book. I really enjoyed this one. It's definitely a good start and just totally had me wanting more right off the bat. I love the lead character. It's a really interesting twist having all these synthetics running off and kidnapping this private, and I don't know, I'm curious where they're going to go with it. I was really enjoyed this one. What did you think, Carissa?
At first I was like, oh, I don't really like this artwork style. It looks just really, it did look dirty and just kind of sloppy. Then the more I started reading the issue, I was like, okay, no, it actually fits. And then I ended up liking it more. But at first it was kind of off-putting. And
about the art, did you guys notice that when they draw the ships are super clean? Like the outside of the ships is super crisp and defined, but then like...
Thank you for bringing that up. Because I was meaning to say that, but I forgot to. But yes,
those are some damn fine-looking ships, too.
The space scenes are really clean.
Yeah.
So it's obviously intentional.
And also, it was also kind of slow for me at the beginning. I just was kind of like, okay, aliens, what can they do? When it gets to the point where she's woken up again, I was like, then it really caught my interest. And then I'm like, this actually does have the feeling of that universe more to me after that point. And I really started to get drawn in and hooked and curious what was going on. So yeah, it definitely grew on me. I am more intrigued with the synthetics in that universe. They can go either way. They're either really loyal to either side, like kind of like that wild card in the universe, especially in most of the series films. Know if they're going to be on your side or they're going to turn on you and be a traitor. You don't know if they're a company man or obviously this one's called Defiance. It seems like that's what they're doing. You never know, and I think that really adds to the story.
I was really impressed with this one. Usually when I see licensed comics, I'm thinking that they're not going to be that good, because all you got to do is slap aliens on the cover of it, right? And it's going to sell however many copies. But this one went like above and beyond. This one is really good. Brian Wood is a great writer. I think that Defiance theme really runs through it, because you've got Zula, who's like injured and can like barely walk and is in like physical therapy, which I thought was an interesting angle to take on there. It's not necessary to tell the story, but it's a detail that makes kind of like all the difference in just being a paint by numbers, alien story, and one that actually has real characters in it. And then you also have that Defiance theme, like you were saying, Carissa, with the synthetics. So I liked that there was that strong thematic link there. I also liked there's a part, my favorite part in the Aliens movie is where they have like the hallway with like the machine gun set up, and they have the counter that's ticking down as it's firing at all the xenomorphs that are coming. And that's the sense that I got when they were listening to the recordings and they said like turn it off, because there's like this sense of danger that's out there, but you don't necessarily see it. And what you don't see, that's one thing that Alien is really good at, is you don't see until the moment of action or horror, there's like this sense of dread that builds. And I thought this did pretty good at that. I mean, I got everything I expected from it. There were aliens, there were gunfights, there were spaceships, and all that was awesome. But I also felt like there were much stronger characters than I thought there would be in here. Much better thematic plots. The ships just look amazing. Like, the space scenes are really, really good. And I'm actually interested in the plot. Like, I feel like it's expanding the universe in a way that I'm interested in. So I really enjoyed this, far more than I thought I would.
Yes, totally. That's the way I felt about it. I've seen a lot of these things, and I've seen some that are really good, and I've seen a lot that are fucking awful. And so I was excited to get it because I do love, Aliens, Predators, Aliens versus Predators. I was kind of cautious going into it, not really sure what I was going to get. And man, was I glad that I did, because this just was really great. Once again, comic genius, and it's funny how they can just work something that's such simple artwork and make it really just stand out and pass that mood.
The artwork kind of reminded me of the visual style of the movies, right? Because before the first Alien movie, space was so crisp and clean, like 2001: A Space Odyssey and Star Trek and even the Star Wars was all pretty crisp and neat and almost like upper class space. But then Alien and Aliens was like working class people in space doing actual jobs. These are construction workers and oil drillers and Marines. These are the boots on the ground of space. And I think that dirty art style in here kind of echoes that. At least to me, that's what it made me think of.
Whenever you look at a computer screen, it's got that weird, dirty 1980s black and green color to it. Just the overall filming, it's like everything looks gritty and dirty and nasty. I loved it. Everybody should pick this up. It's fucking awesome. I give it 4 screaming synthetics.
I gave it 3.5. I was going to use synthetics. I'll give it 3.5 xenomorphs.
I think they saved one of their better stories for the anniversary, and I think that was a really good call on their part. They didn't half-ass it, so I gave them 3.5 Ripley appearances.
That part I felt was kind of gratuitous. I could have done without that.
I think that's exactly what it was. It was gratuitous.
So I had a book from DC Comics. I had Batman number 51, written by the amazing Scott Snyder, pencils by Greg Capullo, inks by Danny Mika, colors by Iko Placencia. You guys probably have not been on Batman since issue 1. But this one, I actually had to go and reread issue 1 of Batman, because when I was reading this, I was like, this really mirrors issue 1 in that thematic device they use where they do the Gotham is, and then they have all different things that Gotham is. Issue 1, which is 50 issues ago, does the exact same thing. And there's a point in the story where you meet the person who writes those articles. So this, basically the last or second to last issue that Scott Snyder is doing on his Batman run that he's done for 50 issues now, and for my money is, if not the greatest run of Batman, within the top 2 or 3. I would only put the original Dark Knight up against it. I think that he is a master at Batman and understands that character so well. So this story is basically, it's a quiet night for Batman. It's basically his night off. So he's going and he can't really accept that, nothing's happening, that there's no danger. So he's going and checking on all the things that he normally would have to deal with. So this is kind of his, going to Arkham Asylum to check on things and patrolling around, and there's nothing that's happening. This issue to me is kind of almost like a love letter to the fans for having read the whole run. There are callbacks that have happened that make you realize that this isn't a bunch of arcs that are, little 6-issue arcs that have been linked together. This is one continuous story that's gone on for 51 issues now. And it's great. There's a sense kind of that he's putting a lot of the pieces back for the next person to pick up and use. Alfred has his hand back after the Joker cut it off. So there's that. Then there's also, to me, my favorite scene in the book is where Bruce is basically, is he getting dressed or undressed? But anyway, he's got his shirt off, and Alfred sees his back after he went in to be regenerated, and he doesn't have any scars on it. And Alfred just basically is amazed by that I just felt that was really a touching scene, that Alfred has seen him broken and beaten and cut and burned and seen all these things that happened to him, and now he's been basically reborn, faster and stronger because he doesn't have all these injuries, and Alfred has to kind of watch him go out and do it all over again. So I thought that was a nice little scene there. I also enjoyed all the different versions of the Batmobile with the holograms that you can put on top of it.
That was awesome.
I thought that was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
There's also really cool scenes where there's this crouch that Batman does when he lands that no one else can pull off quite the same way. There's a great scene where he does that. There's a really nice scene where you have all of the Batman villains, because there's a power outage, right? So Batman is convinced that, the city is going to descend into chaos. And you basically have all of the Bat villains who are, not tonight. They're waiting for something to happen, which I thought was kind of interesting. They also have, Cape has this purple lining now, which is to me is kind of weird. I do like there's a line where the Arkham inmates are like, is your cape purple? And he's like, come closer and find out. I thought that was...
Yeah, I think that was Brock.
I was going to mention that. You take all the good stuff.
To me, the main point of the book is where you meet the guy who writes the Gotham Is articles. And he was the first arc that Batman beat up, but he didn't kill him. And that made a big impression on the guy and basically made him turn his life around. So I think this one is a nice little reflection on the run of Batman that he's done, and just tying a nice little bow on it as a present to the readers. Art's amazing. The writing's great. I love it. I love Scott Snyder's Batman.
Am I the only one who thinks that writer looks like Christian Bale?
I didn't really pick up on that.
There's certain Christian Bale movies where he's scruffy like that with the beard and everything and the crazy wild eyes, and I'm like, it looks like they did a screenshot and drew that on one of the panels. I swear I've seen that picture before. Which would be nice if they thought he made a good Batman. They paid a little homage in the comic book to make it look.
There's also a really scene that's in profile basically, where Gordon and Batman are talking, which I also really enjoyed.
That's the panel you posted.
Rory posted that, yeah.
Yes.
But I'm not going to turn around because I know you're not going to be there one.
In Arkham, where you have his whole rogues gallery in their scrubs basically. I liked that panel too.
Yeah, that was awesome.
What'd you guys think of it?
You honestly hit a lot of the points I was going to mention. Basically, my favorite scenes were the beginning with him and Alfred, because I've always really liked Alfred as a character. I think the dynamic and how touching it can be really comes across. And I think this one, and there was another one you had us read recently that was also...
I think that was either 49 or 50, where he had to put him in the machine to turn him from Bruce Wayne into Batman.
Yeah. So those tender moments with Alfred I really enjoy and I like, and I think it just adds heart to the character where it isn't always necessarily there, I guess, in Batman, I want to say. Not a lot of heart sometimes. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a night off. I don't think Batman would think of it as a night off. I think it's more he thought something was coming and happening, and there just wasn't. It just was a normal blackout. He thought things were going to happen, so he was looking for things. But I thought that sense of foreboding, should we do something, all those that there's definitely something building, and I thought that, but it's a slow burn, but you can almost kind of feel it, something is happening and is growing, but it's not tonight. I really did like that. It actually piqued my interest. I'm I actually might want to read Batman. What's going on with that? I mean, I do like Batman. Of all the DC ones, Batman is the one that I have read regularly than any of the other ones. You said the purple cape thing. I was I love that. That was my favorite. I'm man, you mentioned it. I was that was my favorite, one of my favorite parts. And now that the capes always usually have a different color lining, just for coloring wise. I mean, even right. In TV, Adam West, his was two different colors, gray and blue or whatever. So I think it's usually typical. In the cartoon series, also black and gray. So it's more of a grayish with a purple undertone. I wouldn't say purple, but the fact that someone could call it purple to be funny, and I really like that. And I like this, them all together. It's a massive Batman villains just kind of hanging out. Well, obviously they weren't hanging out. They're in Arkham, and that's where they're all at. But it was a nice panel of them all drawn together. And I don't know those villains with the weird masks. In the underground with the weird white mask.
Oh, the Court of Owls. The one with the white...
That, I didn't know who they were, but I'm ooh, those are sinister looking.
That's the first arc with Batman, where basically the Court of Owls understands the city better than he does, and have been there since, the beginning, and they have, their whole group of assassins, and... Go back and read it. It's really good.
And whoever the chubby blonde chick is, she's pretty cool.
Yeah, then I wasn't sure who she was, because I think that's Penny 2, but that's not what Penny 2 looks like, which is Alfred's daughter.
Yeah, they kept on saying Penny over and over.
She's Is it MI6?
In general, I really liked this one. I thought it was really neat, and I thought that guy looked like Christian Bale.
What do you think, Rory?
Awesome night. I kept on expecting as it was going on and on. It's like, okay, where's the craziness going to happen? Because it's Gotham, something bad's going to happen, right? And it just doesn't at the end. It's like I feel like it's like Ice Cube's good day, It's like today was a good day.
I almost feel like it's like Batman is almost like kind of won in this one. That there can be a blackout and nothing bad happens because he's done his job.
Yeah, I mean it's funny because he's got the scene with the Penguin and Black Mask. Black Mask's like, oh, we could do this right now, and he's like, no. But then it's like Batman's right on top of him around the corner. They just don't know it. So it's kind of funny because it's like as they're showing everything that's going on, it's like in most cases like Batman's already there, or he's close by, or he's on his way. So yeah, it's really like a victory of Batman sailing all over the city, but he ain't got to do. So it was a good day.
There's a panel that you guys probably, if you haven't been reading it, probably didn't pick up on. It's right after that scene with Black Mask, where there's the guy with the purple flower who gets like bit on the neck by like a mosquito. He's like, not yet, not this night. That's the joke. So when Batman and the Joker basically killed each other and Batman got regenerated, the Joker did too, but the Joker hasn't made the decision to become the Joker yet again.
I guessed that was who that was, but I didn't know why. He kind of had that look.
Yeah, he's got that nose,
Wondering about that. I was just like, the mosquitoes a lot.
Yeah, it's all the flies and mosquitoes around him, yeah.
Awesome run. Unfortunately, I haven't been here through number 1, but this definitely makes me want to go fall back and go from the beginning. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it in Batman history, so pretty awesome to see the Cape Crusader.
So I really like this one. I ended up giving it 4.5 purple capes.
I gave it 3 3/4. Alfred's a sweetie.
I'm going to give it 4.5 bats flying out of the cave.
Now on to something different. I had Insects number 5 by Aftershock Comics, written by Marguerite Bennett, art by Ariella Dania, color by Brian Valenza. So I like Insects, everyone knows that. It's the sexy changeling time, like in Gaslight London, I believe. This issue I got a little confused near the end, I'm not gonna lie, because they're trying to explain how the hag worked, and so I was confused by the locations, even though they were labeling them. Basically, they learned that the Phino, or the green werewolf guy from the issue before that they have trapped, he has a real name. I'm just gonna call him Werewolf because that Sino-Pili, whatever they want to call it, I'm just gonna butcher it. So Green Werewolf Boy is part of a brotherhood that is set out to send them, and he can smell that the girls are different, but he doesn't know what they are, and he agrees. They agree to work together, and they go and he takes them to like a sacred cemetery, I guess, blessed ground, and he meets with this other brotherhood, and they talk it out and basically say that they've been hunting the hag all this time, and they kind of explain more how she works and operates. Basically, anyone who's weak and has an opening, this thing can go in and take them over, and it'll be their host body and stuff like that. At the same time, their butler explains how he's been reading the news but not telling the ladyship that what's been going on, thinking she's too frail, which is very typical for the time period. He thinks that she would have hysteria or something. Basically, he came to the conclusion that the butcher is really a combination in the news of 3 people, which is one part her, one part the werewolf, and the other part the actual hag.
Yeah, that they're all getting mixed together, yeah.
Yeah, they're all being mixed together and called the butcher, but really it was the two of them. Well, the ladyship killing people because she's protecting women and children. The werewolf killing people basically for the same reason, but also trying to hunt down the hag, and the hag just killing people because she's crazy evil bitch. It shows the brother-in-law going to a brothel that he said he found the address in his brother's possessions. The madam, this is where I got confused. The madam looks like the sister-in-law, or is the sister-in-law?
Looks like. She possesses the sister.
That's where that was my confusion, because later on, the sister-in-law goes crazy at the end, right? And gets torn up. But that's why I was confused, because I'm like, but then she revealed, but it looks very much similar to the madam, and I wasn't sure if they were...
Yeah, I think they could have done a better job of making them look slightly different. Like, give them a different hair color or something, Yeah,
that was where I got confused. But Mariah says that she thinks that she can track where the hag is or what's going to happen, but she needs to get her sexy time on to do it. Or her intimate time.
Her cult of ecstasy magic, yeah.
Yeah, her ecstasy magic. And all the brothers are like, yeah, okay. They had no complaints, it seemed. They get down to their naked sexy time. This wasn't as good as the ones in issues before. It wasn't as detailed or as long.
I felt the same way.
I was like, man, that's the best part. Okay, fine. It was just them naked and cuddling, basically. And kind of a hand between her legs, you kind of saw. That was about it. Basically, she sees that the sister-in-law has an axe and is sneaking up behind the doctor holding their son. And, and it's like saying creepy nursery rhymes and stuff. They fly to the rescue. They bust out the firefly and butterfly wings and they have at. And, that part is gratifying, the fight, like her tearing them apart, stuff like that. But I think the Hag must have gone back to the Madam because after the body was destroyed.
I think so,
in
too.
that way. But basically, her secret got outed to everyone by that point, at least in the household. They all saw her as Mantis Face, and there's no really going back from that, I don't think.
Yeah, I felt this one, it tried to explain a lot more than in previous issues, but, in doing so, like you're saying, the main point of the book, their sexy time communing or whatever it is they're doing was, I think, cut short, because I think that would normally be, 4 pages, basically, and this was, 2. Yeah. So that got cut short. I did think that they do monster mouths really well. There's a scene, in the beginning where the werewolf guy is chained up, and it really reminded me a lot of, The Howling, when he's halfway transformed, basically.
Yeah, I really like how he looked, how they draw him. And the Hag on the Madam in the against the brother was really good. Just the mouth, just the creepy maw that she had when she wasn't fully transformed was creepy as hell.
And you can see it ripping her flesh because her mouth is bigger.
She is drawn so creepy. And
they also have her in silhouette where she's flying. Looks pretty awesome too. But I don't know. This one to me I thought was one of the weaker issues.
Yeah, it was weaker. I feel like I got a little bit more information, but it definitely felt weaker. It wasn't as shocking or as fun, I guess. It's more, I feel like a transition, kind of, almost in a way, because now they'll know. I feel like more is going to happen later, which doesn't really do much for this issue. I'm like, oh yay, more is going to happen later, but this issue's kind of, So a lot of things that I like about it weren't in this issue. I still think a lot of the artwork is pretty creepy, and I'm still interested in it. I just wish there was more sexy time and more gruesomeness that normally is in it.
Sexy time and monsters. That's what this book is about. And we got kind of shorted on both of them.
More green werewolves, more sexy time. Rory, this is a new adventure for you.
First of all, can I just say that I would like for my superpower activation to be somebody giving me a handy. That's great.
Yeah.
Just crank start you.
Yeah, hey, if you're going to have some sort of weird activation thing for your superpowers, why not have somebody be jacking you off? Or
I'm just saying, if you like that, you should really read the other issues because they are way better.
Way more graphic.
Not get ahead of ourselves here. Now, I'm not going to quite give it a hated it, that kind of thing. I do think, I have mixed feelings on this. I dig the artwork. I'm not super, excited about it, but they, like you guys said, it's they do draw some great mouths, and, a lot of the fighting type scenes were pretty nifty. There were parts of it that I enjoyed, and there were parts of it that I didn't. I felt the story was slow and dragging, and I don't know, almost trying too hard. Of course, I haven't read the whole series, so I'm just kind of jumping in here in the deep end. But yeah, it was just, I don't know, there was a lot of aspects of it that just were just slow and boring, and I felt like it was an over attempt at being fancy. I
sometimes think the slow is almost on purpose to get that feeling of propriety that is in Victorian gaslight London, that time period. It's very prim and proper and things move at a certain pace. Yeah, but again, like we said, this issue wasn't its best.
But yeah, in this book, when the sex happens, it's explosive, when it happens.
Explosive.
No, it really is. When they're in the little garden and they
oh no, I've seen
it's
those
all
movies.
prim and proper, and then suddenly it's hike up that hoop skirt. We're going to town here.
Yeah, there's one where they're getting it on in a hedge maze and it is hot.
That's the one I'm thinking of.
So the prison one was very, very detailed.
Yes.
I guess I'll just have to wait for the next issue or go back. But yeah, I don't know. It's also not really all my genre and stuff like that. I don't know. Just for me, it wasn't horrible, but for me, it just didn't really grab me.
Sure. What did you end up giving it, Carissa?
I gave it a good 3.5. Maz. It wasn't up there with some of the other issues, but I still think it was readable, and I find it interesting. I just like opposite of Rory, I like the genre. Period changeling, sexy time, It's kind of my thing.
I gave it 3 cynocephalia, which is their name for the werewolves.
Way to be all fancy.
Fancy time.
Okay, what the fuck is that? I gave it 2.5 hand jobs. I like the artwork. It wasn't anything super special, but it was pretty cool in many points. Storyline didn't really grab me, but I'm also jumping in on the deep end. So yeah, 2.5 hand jobs.
So I had another book from Image. I had Saga number 36. Written by Brian K. Vaughan, art by Fiona Staples. This one had so many parts in it that I really, really liked. First of all, Fiona Staples' art is spectacular, that she can draw things so well. And there's always something in there that you haven't seen before. And this had so many parts in it that I loved. I loved that we finally got to see Gus and his chopper doing some chopping. I really liked that.
This issue had so many things that reminded me of why I love Saga.
Yes. I don't like the reporters. That's the one thing that I'm not super crazy about in the book. But there's a couple panels that just reach out and just grab your heart. There's the scene where they're finally reunited, where Hazel comes out of the box and sees Marco there, and it's just a panel of them hugging each other, and it's just daddy, daddy, daddy. She's so happy to see her.
Because he was worried that she wouldn't remember who he was, and so heartbreaking.
And then there's that. There's also a really the face acting in this book. The expressions are so well done. There's that panel where she comes out of the box and she sees him. That kind of wide-eyed shock, she can't quite believe what she's seeing. Then there's that scene of them hugging that just rips your heart out. It's so great, and it's so rewarding because we've seen how long have we waited through this to see that. To see them reunited together. And then, like I said, I love Gus. Gus is one of my favorites. Poor Friendo got taken down, and Gus just loses his shit and he chops off that guy's hand and gets knocked out. I really enjoyed that.
But Friendo is only, they do say Frendo's not dead, he's just knocked out.
Yeah. I mean, when I saw it, I thought he was dead. But, you're right. They do say that he's not killing anybody. I also like the absolute insanity of the guy, that he has all of his lovers and relatives in his mind talking to him to see just how crazy he is. Then there's also that kind of moment where his mom chooses to stay behind on the prison, because she feels like she fits in there and she can do something there. I also like the scene where he's Mom, you have tattoos, where she's got her little prison dagger on her face, I like that. And then I like the other person who's well, if you're not going to take the portal, and just books through it, And then of course she doesn't understand what's going on, so she sees Alana there, and they start fighting, and then Marco comes through and explains to her what's going on. And then what I felt was the last panel. I don't really want to spoil what happens here, but something really big happens in the last panel. And the thing that I love about that panel is they get the news, and the expression on each of their faces is completely different and tells 2 different stories of what they think about what's happening. One person's shocked, one person's really happy.
But I don't think that the shock doesn't necessarily mean he's not happy. He's just...
No, I think the next, if there was one more panel, he would be happy too, but
he knows the trouble that it will bring because it's already have brought in, kind of thing.
So I thought that was a great last panel. So I guess they're going on a summer hiatus, and then they'll be back.
No!
Another Saga break. So if you like Saga, this would be a damn fine time to go back and read the rest of Saga. If you liked this one, but maybe you were a little confused, you will not be disappointed if you go back and read Saga. It is probably hands down the best comic out there right now, in my opinion.
Dude, I know that other prison chick she's going to be trouble, because she was already kind of flirting with Marco when he first showed up, and then she follows him back, and they don't need more of the people get involved in their shit. We've already done that, Brian. Are you listening, Brian K. Vaughan? We've already done that cycle. We don't need more of that. Yeah. We don't need more of strained eyes, horny people. I feel like that's what's going to be happening, but I hope Alana, I hope they've learned from that. I really did like the one that you're talking about, his mind being broken, where he's seen both his sister or his brother?
It's his androgynous relative. I'm not sure.
I think it's his sister who looks like androgynous, but it's half that and half...
Oh, that panel where it's half of the spider face and half of her?
It's the 2 of them together, and this shows us how broken it is. I really liked how that was drawn. And yes, Gus was I was no! Like, first I was like, yay, go Gus! And I'm like, no, don't.
Poor friendo.
Poor Gus.
And what's with the dog, like, shooting, like, darts out of his nose? That's...
Well, each of the companion animals seem to have something special that they're bringing.
Lion cat.
Because that is his relative's dog, right?
Yeah.
That's where he got it from?
And then, it's not actually in the comic, but in the letter column, they mention more merchandise coming for Saga, which makes me really happy.
Mm-hmm. When I was at the comic book store last, because someone had the pre-order thing for the plushie lion cat, they said that... And the girl happened to be wearing the Lion Cat shirt, the one that I've been looking for years and never been able to find in my size. That, I guess, Brian K. Vaughan, this is what they said. I don't know if it's true. They said Brian K. Vaughan originally said he wasn't going to do any merchandising for the comic. He only did the shirts to run for the people who got in at the beginning. As like a thank you. I mean, obviously with the plushie coming out and some other stuff, I'm really hoping he changed his mind because there's potential in things that I want. I'm not feeling the plushie that much. It looks kind of weird. It doesn't look quite right. I'd rather have like a figurine or like a cold cast statue or something.
Well, it says the sagashop.com. Cool t-shirts, statues, other creations, fans of Gus are in for a treat, so check it out. See what they got. Buy it.
Yes, because I've been wanting a Lion Cat shirt for a while now.
So, Rory, this was, again, one of those kind of jumping into the deep ends on a book. What did you...
Well, it's kind of interesting because, this is it's another jumping into the deep end, so it's a little bit confusing for me, but here's what I am going to say. The artwork. I fucking love the artwork in here. It's common, but, it's clean. It's very just... pretty. It really captures like this mythical feel to it. It really kind of like draws you in, like even if you don't know what the fuck's going on with all this shit. I mean, really that alone has got me interested enough to actually want to go drop back and check out the rest of the series. As far as like the story and stuff, I'm not really in on everything. So, and yeah, it's like at one point or another, it's like, why is there a like baby seal riding a walrus with a fucking golden axe?
At least you identified that it's a seal.
Yeah. I was like, somebody's going to come along and beat him over the head pretty quick and turn him into a jacket.
Yes, he looks like a harp seal baby.
But, like you're saying about the art, Fiona Staples' art is just, it's in a world all its own. I really like if you look at, like, the first page, Brian K. Vaughan gives her top billing on this book. It's Fiona Staples, Brian K. Vaughan. Nice. It's not Brian K. Vaughan, Fiona Staples. And usually it's writer than artist. And that's changed. Yeah,
it's phenomenal. It's top notch. It's very beautiful.
Yeah, I've heard him gush about her. He is clearly a fan.
The thing to keep in mind about this, like we've seen other books that have like 16 people doing the art, right? This is all one person
which is
doing the art. She's doing the pencils, the inking, the coloring, everything.
Definitely cool. Like I said, it makes me want to drop back just because, it's good to look at. I mean, can't go wrong there, right?
There's amazing trades out for it, so it's a lot easier to catch up.
Yep, I got the Saga hardcover for Christmas as one of my Christmas gifts. I love it. So I gave it 4.5 friendos.
I gave it 4.5 hazels because she's adorable.
I'm going to give it 3 walrus riding sea...
It's Gus and friendo.
Gus! He's the most adorable little badass.
3.5 creepy topless spider women.
Read the first arc.
There's another one. Yeah, it was good. I just need to know more about it. But I mean, I got a feeling that this one's phenomenal.
Absolutely.
I believe that we're supposed to make a quick reference to what was Christina's other pick while we're here.
Oh, yes. So Christina had chosen Angela, Queen of Hell, number 7, I believe.
Final.
Which is the last issue of Angela, Queen of Hell. It's also by Marguerite Bennett, who did Insects. And this has been a book that... to me, I would have never read if Christina had not shown me the original 1602 storyline. Been in love with that book since then. The art has been amazing. The writing has been great. The characters have been really strong. Really, really enjoyed it. I'm sad to see it come to an end, but well done run.
Mm-hmm. The very important line that she wanted us to share.
Oh, yes. I'll leave this one to you.
So the lesbian three, or no, how'd you word it? I'm trying to think of her wording.
The three-way in the sky?
The three-way in the sky.
She can't be here because of? Yeah.
Yeah. Just so you know, Marguerite Bennett is all about the sexy time.
Yes.
Putting that out there, but it is a good pick. We encourage, if you've been reading along with us this whole time for that series, and we hope that you picked it up and read it and enjoyed it. You can also comment about it and let us know what you thought about it.
Definitely. So in a galaxy far, far away.
Okay, so Star Wars number 18. Dun, 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 dun. Written by Jason Aaron. Very familiar name we've had here today. Pencils by Lionel Francis Yu. Inks by Jerry Allen Gillen. Colors Sunny Go. This one starts off, once again, with the previous, when I did the droids issue last podcast, I'd mentioned how they very much captured the 1980s, 1990s look of the Star Wars comics, which is something I kind of dig, even though it's not like a phenomenal style of art. But basically what happens is you start off in this one with Luke and Han, and they're kind of talking about how they're basically not making any money, so Luke talks Han into letting him fly the Millennium Falcon. Not much to see there, kind of a gratuitous scene. Then it kind of jumps off into
That's where they became criminal nerf herders, I think those are the nerfs that there's, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. To me, it's like when I saw that scene, I was like, okay, why did they even put that in there? Then we jump right into basically this lady getting choked by a fucking droid, which I thought was a really good transition.
Santa. Well, if you hadn't read them previously, that was a chick who claimed to be Han's wife, so that was very gratifying for me.
Not a fan. Chris is not a fan of Santa.
I'm not a fan of Santa Solo.
Gotcha. I was just a fan of, somebody just getting the shit choked out of him. Somebody else was like, I've almost got it fixed. Oh, that was funny.
Oh, that was Dr. Aphra. I was like, woohoo!
Dr. Aphra. Yeah! Badass.
Princess Leia has these two other people with her, and they're basically going through this prison where all the inmates are getting killed off, and they're trying to catch up. There's also this small group of droids that are armed to the teeth running around. So it's kind of two different things going on at the same time. You have R2 and C-3PO, of course, hanging out with their droid buddies, who I assume they're confusing are on their side.
I think they're hostages.
Are they hostages? It wasn't clear to me because they were talking about, you guys stand out in front and, guard this hallway. It sounded like they were almost like leaving them with a flank, even though they were unarmed.
Well, I mean, the Star Wars comic and the Darth Vader comics have really hit on the ideas of droids, like, being sentient and, like, having this, like, undercurrent of, like, rebellion in them.
Gotcha. Then you've got this other mysterious figure that's running through, blasting, basically killing off all the different people who are in there. Really good scene. This mysterious character walks into a security cell and says, hey, you're in this maximum security cell. There's got to be a reason. And there's this guy, grizzled, long hair, long beard. Obviously, he's just been in there forever. And he says 3 reasons. Those 3 Jedi whose throats I slit. Which I thought was an awesome line. Then at one point or another, the guy tries to shiv him, obviously assuming he can get out, or maybe he's sensing what's about to happen to him. But they get into this fight, and so they're grappling over this knife, and then eventually the masked character ends up stabbing him with his own knife, and then he tells him right beforehand. So I'm assuming that this guy's probably like an Imperial Guard or somebody who's like loyal to Palpatine, but he tells him, your Emperor Palpatine is a Sith Lord, and the guy's like, what? And then he fucking shanks him. That was a great scene. I fucking loved that. And then he keeps on moving through. Then it looks like I had trouble interpreting the next scene where it was like maybe he was speaking, she, we're not really sure who yet, but it looked like over the loudspeaker they were kind of like taunting Princess Leia as she's trying to go through and do what she's supposed to do. I wasn't really certain on that. That was kind of unclear.
Yeah, they keep opening basically so this is like a prison that's floating around the sun, and Leia's trying to rescue everyone. And he's basically telling her, you can't save everyone. And he keeps opening up the doors and, like, sucking them out into space and, like, into the sun.
Yeah, so she's running around trying to catch them. They end up getting in this gunfight with the droids that are holed up. At first, they're basically pinned down outside the room because there's a droid with basically this, machine gun that's just kind of unloading down the hallway. Then one thing I did forget to mention was that droid that was choking out the other character before suddenly gets up and walks over and walks up to the other droid and destroys that droid because obviously what's her name had correctly programmed it when she said she had.
Dr. Aphra.
Yes, Dr. Aphra. So that was kind of interesting. And then they kind of they have the reunion, and then they basically leave us with a cliffhanger.
I liked the part where R2 basically trips C-3PO into the other robot to cause like a distraction.
Yes.
I thought that was pretty funny.
And 3PO thought he was doing fisticuffs.
Fisticuffs, yes, very exciting. He's just falling on top of people and knocking them down.
At one point, Sana and Dr. Afra are getting into it near the end, and Dr. Afra talks about, because basically this, you can tell they have some history, obviously, and she mentions you need to get over your crushes and da 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 da. So I'm almost thinking that maybe Dr. Afra and Han and Sana had like all knew each other, because why else would they mention crushes? And then Sana on the same thing, and Dr. Afra is very Han-esque, and he's just showing up. I'm thinking that there might have been like some history going on in there. Which actually, I'm weirdly okay with him and Dr. Afra having been a thing before, because Dr. Afra is awesome. And it would make more sense. But I also would like to mention that Leia in this is how I feel the Leia comics should have been.
I was just going to say, Leia in this is badass. Like, whoever is drawing, I'm sorry, I don't remember the artist's name on this. Like, the art style is a little rougher than some of the stuff we've seen before, but the way he draws Leia, I think you can really tell he likes Leia and he wants her to be badass.
Yeah,
like they do a lot of like in the 90s movies. There's those like scenes where like the people like have that slow mo walk, like they do it in like Reservoir Dogs and like things like that. And there are a lot of panels here where it looks like Leia is basically doing that.
Out of all the new recent Star Wars comics that have been going on, the Leia series was the weakest out of all of them.
Absolutely.
And so when you see her in these, I'm like, this is what it should have been. I would have read this, the story of these three women tooling around.
And then there was something I wanted to ask you guys if you picked up on. This mysterious person who's going around and shooting everything and who's also standing on top of the Millennium Falcon at the end. That is the outfit that Leia wears when she goes into Jabba's palace. And I'm wondering if this is where she gets that.
Is it? Wait, hold on. Is it?
Are you sure? It looks a little bit... It doesn't look brown and tan. It looks...
No, I don't think that is.
I don't think it is.
I'm pretty sure it is. Well, we'll see as it plays out, but I think it is. So, okay, readers, listeners, whatever you are, what do you think? Is that the outfit from Return of the Jedi, or is it something...
We want to know.
It actually reminds me a lot of... there's a Firefly, I think, episode with like a bounty hunter.
Yeah,
that's kind of the feel that I got from this as well. But.
Yeah, he's on the Falcon, but then that kind of works. But then they say, we got your transmission, which means that... Because at one point, Dr. Afra says she's using that robot to try to send a transmission. The droids inside with 3PO and R2 say, we stopped the transmission. They were trying to get one out. But then Luke and Han show up saying, we got your so...
I thought they got there really fast. That was the only part of the story that I thought was kind of put me out of it, you know?
But other than that, yeah, I really like that. I'm curious to see what's going on with... I'm just glad to see more Dr. Afra, personally. And now it's like the other side of the story we've been watching. We've been seeing her all this time alone or with Vader, and now to see her on this side is really interesting to me.
I love the coloring in it. Like I said, they capture that 1980s, 1990s Star Wars comics feel. I like that a lot. I dug the story. This character, who I'm assuming is going to be the villain, I'm just so excited to figure out who the fuck this is. Part of the story I didn't necessarily get with, but then again, I haven't also been following the series once again for the millionth time. So I'm going to give this definitely a good solid 3.5 knives to the chest.
I gave it 4 Who Sansa's Crush.
I will give it 4 Leias.
Hey.
We have one more. We have Avengers Standoff, Assault on Pleasant Hill, Omega #1. So this is the end of the Assault on Pleasant Hill storyline. It's from Marvel Comics. It's written by Nick Spencer, art by Daniel Acuna and Angel Valentine, colors by Daniel Acuna and Matt Wilson. So this is the whole Avengers Assault on Pleasant Hill miniseries. To me, has been really successful. I think it tells a coherent and interesting story, and I think it does what miniseries like this that run through multiple titles are supposed to do, which is to get you to read titles that you are not necessarily reading. And this has introduced me to some parts of the Marvel Universe that I had not been reading that I probably will continue to read. So I think it's been very successful in that. And I think the story is really interesting. I thought the thing with Kobik at first I wasn't totally on board with, but I've come to appreciate that character. I feel like this arc has come to a pretty satisfying conclusion here, with Baron Zemo having all of the people captured and basically wants to get Kobik so that he can use the Cosmic Cube to rewrite reality. I also liked, you mentioned it in your last review of, was it New Avengers? Whichever the last one was, with Kraven and Kobik having their tea party. So we get to see more of that, which I thought was a nice little touch of humor in there, after having a scene of people with like dynamite, the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents like having dynamite strapped to them and being shot in the head, and pretty dark stuff. And then you counterbalance it with that kind of comedic scene with Kraven the Hunter and Kobik having a tea party. The one thing that I guess criticism I had for this series is I felt like the actual conclusion just kind of came down to a fist fight, which, while it was awesome, I didn't feel was quite as satisfying as it could have been. It seems like they were really concerned with setting up some new series that are coming out of this. I felt, which was kind of like to the detriment of the story. It's movies do it too, where you're really concerned with setting up the sequels rather than telling your story. So I think they're setting up what are they setting up, like Thunderbolts and just some other series that are going to come out of this, which are going to be interesting, and I'll read them, but I really felt like they were pushing that a little more than it needed to be for the story. As much as I disliked the fact that it just came down to fisticuffs, everyone did get some really cool like little action scenes that they got to do. And I did like the narration, which is kind of hinting at Civil War 2 that's coming, that this was like their moment where they got to be heroes and, you know, fight back to back and make a difference in the world, and that this would be the moment that they look back to when the war happens, to remind them of what, you know, the goodness that's in the world. So I thought that was the one bit of foreshadowing that I didn't mind. I thought that was kind of interesting. I mean, overall, I think the series was a success, and I liked it. Maria Hill I hate her so much, where she's trying to spin her bullshit about how, you know, let's look on the bright side of what happened, and that council is not having it. I was glad that they did not fall for her political spin, you know, that she's on trial basically for this. I also liked the end where the Red Skull, I thought it was interesting that the Red Skull in Pleasant Hill was a priest. I thought that was a really interesting choice for him to portray that character that way, that I thought they were really trying to say something with it. And now with this, I think I understand what they're saying, that he's saying he doesn't want to conquer the world, basically that he wants to conquer like the hearts and minds of the world, that he wants to inspire, that he doesn't want slaves, he wants followers. He wants people who willingly do what he says. And at the end, you've got all these like neo-Nazis in a bar.
It was a good comic, had a lot of good action scenes in it, had some comedy in there along with it. As you know, as per typical, like last time I had reviewed the previous step on this one, it's definitely one to catch up on. I'm definitely wanting to fall back and get the whole story. But yeah, it's good shit. That's all I could say. I'm gonna give it, probably like 3.5 Kubiaks, or whatever her name is, Kobe. It's definitely a good series. It's just classic comic-y goodness, you know, but it's both serious and has funny parts in it. You know, what else can you really ask for? Great artwork, it's fun, you know, it's great superhero fare. Boom. So those were the books we read this week. To check our weekly pull lists and other nerd shenanigans, go check out fourcolorednerds.com or our Facebook page, Four Colored Nerds. You can follow us on Twitter or at Instagram. You can find the podcast on iTunes,
on Stitcher,
on SoundCloud,
and on Podcast Addict.
Make sure to subscribe to the podcast and be sure to come back next week for another episode. Until then, keep reading, nerds!